Are we actually recording this time?
We're recording, Z. We're recording here.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't feel as funny this time as me showing you the photo the second time. And just so you guys know, you can blame Ben for that.
Yeah, you can blame me for that. It's your fault for not paying attention.
Yeah, well, I guess it is.
But that little girl right there, Z shares blood with that little girl, and I truly feel sorry for her.
Yeah, just nightmare.
And she does not look like her mother or her father, so we're not really sure who she is.
Yeah, well, again, theories. we went to the. Oh God, hold on, give me a second. We went to the D-backs game against the Rays yesterday, and Kevin Newman threw me a ball. I was trying about 9 innings, and I finally got one. So that was our gift to Rory. That was our gift to Rory. We got her a ball yesterday, and
did you actually give it to her, or did you take it for yourself?
Talk about ungrateful.
Yeah, ungrateful.
I actually ended up taking it in the end.
26-year-old man, ladies and gentlemen, 26-year-old man.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, and I put in the hard work to get it. I put in the determination, the blood, sweat, and tears. She just sat there. She just sat there.
Do you want to let everybody know who went with you?
Well, I mean, it's not much to say about it. It was D, Spike, and Annette. So it's pretty much everybody.
What would you say that Annette thought the ballpark was fantastic?
Well, I actually asked her. And maybe I can pull this up real quick in case nobody knows what Tropicana Field looks like. If nobody's been to the Rays Stadium, let's go ahead and pull up what Tropicana Field looks like. And how do I spell Tropicana? There we go. Because let's just say it's just old. But anyways, as we're pulling it up, this is now episode 56?
I believe this is 55.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. 3 minutes in and didn't even say anything.
Yeah, I didn't say anything.
There's not really like a good picture of like the interior of this.
You can't find a picture of this ballpark?
Here we go. I found one. I mean, God, this has to be from a decade ago because I've never seen a Rays game this sold out. But just so you guys have an idea, if you've never seen what the inside their dome looks like, this is what Tropicana Field looks like. I mean, God, look how old that looks.
It literally looks like you're in a tent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now, I've never seen a Rays game, at least my time watching them. Well,
look at the outfield wall. Like, look at that blue and look how it dips.
Yeah.
That's awful. That looks terrible.
Well, no, you're looking at the bleachers. That's above home plate.
Yeah, I know. I know. Like the top deck there, that blue up there.
Yeah.
And then it dips. Like, is that supposed to be like a wave or something?
I don't know. But again, I can't remember last time I watched a Rays game where I saw fans all the way on top of those bleachers. I mean that had to be in the nosebleeders. I mean, that had to be like early 2010s. But just so you guys have an idea, this is what it looks like. It's old. The Rays are going to be moving to a new stadium. And that's never been in there. So I actually asked her. And I actually asked her if she liked it. She said she thought it was amazing.
Z, there's no standard.
No, there's not. No, there's not.
There's no standard to her life.
I mean, really, what brought me back flashbacks, guys, is we took her through every single house HHN. She said it was the best house.
Yeah. Every house was the best house.
Every single one. So, yeah, she thought it was amazing. I would say the only cool thing about Tropicana Field, the only single cool thing, is they have a tank with a bunch of like Rays in there.
Yeah,
that's it.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And they're
spending money to go see that.
And they're just freaking floating around, just freaking fins flying.
They're fins.
Oh, whatever you call them. I don't know. But yeah, so that's what was going on yesterday.
Yeah, Z went to the ball game. Diamondbacks lost in extra innings. Got a baseball, taken away from children for himself.
Again, I have seriously no care.
Yeah,
seriously no care.
True, I gotta know about where this guy is in life.
Yeah, Well, I mean,
So
there were
this isn't a baseball podcast or anything like that.
no, there's
We're
not.
going to be continuing on in this 8-part series. Part 3 of 8. Z and I going through each division in the NFC to start. And as you see in this video, we're going to be talking about the NFC East. The last 2 episodes, as you guys can see on my channel and even on the channel here, Z and I talked about the NFC West and we talked about the NFC South. You guys can go check that out. Thank you for you guys who have watched that and have tuned into that. YouTube, once you actually start pushing out these videos more. But we're going to be talking about the NFC East here, heading into this season of
This is the best.
2024.
This is the best I found.
And this is really the best pictures you could find.
I mean, it's kind of cool. It shows all the different helmets they wear. I mean, so and would you like to say who these teams are?
Why don't you pull a better photo?
Yeah, well, and I didn't know what to pull up.
All right, well, we're going to take that down.
Yeah.
So we obviously have the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Washington Redskins or Commanders, and we have the New York Giants.
Get banned.
Yeah. They need to be going back to that name, by the way. Redskins needs to be coming back.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, it was a great name.
Yeah,
but with this division, last year, the Dallas Cowboys won their division. The Philadelphia Eagles ended up being a wild card team, correct, Z?
Yeah, I mean they choked it, and here we go.
Yeah.
Here's a better picture. There we go.
There we go. That's a little bit better.
Yeah, no, they absolutely choked it. I mean, they were 9-1 after beating Kansas City on the road, and then or like 9-1, they're to 8-1 or something like that. And then after that, it just tumbled. It was just they went like 1-6 the rest of the season. I don't know. It was just bizarre. It was really bizarre. And
Z, it honestly reminded me. I've said this to you before. I've said this to some other people last year when the Eagles were starting to really fall apart. Is that they reminded me of the 2020 Steelers. They started off great. They were undefeated for a period of time, and then they just completely had an epic collapse and lost in the first round of the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Like I know people like after last season was over, people wanted like Nick fired and like.
I mean, would you say Nick is one of the biggest D-bags in the league?
Oh, and easily he is, and he's really not that good of a head coach. Obviously, if you have a roster as talented as Philadelphia, anybody can be a good head coach.
Yeah.
So
how many more years do you give him?
I don't know. I think I'll answer that question after this season.
I'm going to give him 2 more. But anyway, beside the point, we're going into the NFC East. Z, you can start us off here. Before you kind of start off who you think's going to take this division title this year, do you think that this division is going to be a little bit more, I don't know if I want to necessarily say like more competitive, but a little bit more like worthy of paying attention to this year than last year? Or do you think it's going to take a dip this year? Like, do you think this is a little bit more weaker? You think they're a little stronger? You think there's a little bit more interest there? What do you think?
Well, people are going to think the sneaky team in the division is going to be Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with the Giants, obviously the Giants have a lot of talent, but their quarterback position is going to be what's going to hold them back. And honestly, maybe because the quarterback position might be the case of why Brian Day will lose his job with them. So, I mean, just kind of like the last many seasons where Philadelphia and Dallas are going to battle like they do, like all the way till the last week. I feel like, and it's always a Sunday night football game, and they play for the division. I think it's every single year. It's every single year. Do I think Washington could sneak their way up into that like top of the division? I don't know. I'm not going to say that, but now do they have one of the most exciting players in the league after drafting Jay and Daniels? Yeah, they do. I think it's only right to start this with who won the division last year and with the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, just like I feel like because I think this came out too. So it looks like just like with San Francisco, how we talked with the last one, Dallas is having the same issue with CeeDee Lamb. And even kind of like minorly with Dak Prescott, but Dak Prescott is there. He's at practice. He's saying that he's obviously going to be there.
He's playing on the last year of his deal.
Yeah. Which is a whole separate conversation. Now, starting off with Dallas and CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is I would say outside Micah Parsons, their most important player. Would you agree?
100%.
I mean, or you could say Dak Prescott, but those are top three, undebatable. And now here, I mean, it happens every offseason. It happens every training
Yeah,
camp
but
where
just
there's a
here we go again.
yeah, where there's a couple players that hold
God.
out.
I wish we could do that at our job, Z.
I really wish I could, and I really wish I could.
Holding out
Um,
for a pay raise.
yeah, but I'm gonna get straight to the point with this. The Cowboys got to pay this guy.
No,
It,
100%. But then you have 85-year-old Gerald. Well, I don't really have much urgency here.
yeah, I mean, just the Cowboys got to pay this guy, and
Yeah.
and then you get to the next part of the conversation where it's like oh, well, then what do they do with Dak next season, and then eventually you'll have Michael Parsons become a free agent, and you'll have to pay him, and yada yada. I mean, that's the point of managing the America's team. However, I think with Dallas right now, what they have an advantage over everybody else in the division um, is they are like they are so well. Let me say this: I think they're like the foundation of what they have is stronger than Philadelphia, Washington, New York. Like I'm a fan, and I are Ravens Steelers fans. Ravens Steelers historically have always been a team that will have a good offensive line, have a good defensive line, have a good front seven, and they want to run the ball. And I love the way that's how that's Dallas's DNA. And I'm not saying Philadelphia and stuff don't have that, but that was a big reason why Philadelphia lost last season. Really not having that good of a running back. I can't remember who the starting running back was last season. Who was it? Boston Scott?
They had DeAndre Swift.
Oh, that's right. Oh yeah. Now I feel like an idiot. Well, I mean, yeah. Anyways, he's not there anymore, and now they replaced it with Saquon, who is obviously one of the top running backs in the league. But I think with Dallas, and we'll get to Philadelphia next, is sure I love their foundation, and I think they have better star players than anybody else in the division. However, the running game is I don't know. I obviously they re-signed Ezekiel Elliott, guys like pushing 30. And then you have whoever their other running back is. I can't remember. I think he's a rookie.
They got how do you pronounce his name? It's like Rico.
Yeah, and he's been like underratedly talked about this offseason. I'm sure he'll be like a high fantasy draft pick, probably third, fourth round. Because ESPN will just like overanalyze them.
Yeah, Rico Dowdy.
Yeah.
Or Dowdle.
So I say with Dallas and coming in this season, we all know what the monkey in the back is. We all know what it is. We can sit here just like all the talk shows on ESPN and talk about how Dak Prescott doesn't show up in the big games.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's a fact. It's an unfortunate fact. At the same time, Dallas has had some of the worst luck, and some people I think you can say they're cursed.
Yeah.
From like the Dez Bryant days of not being ruled a catch.
Yeah.
Just like I mean, they've had so much bad luck. I kind of feel bad, and I think it's better for the league when they are performing well. But I really do think it's a coin flip with like them and Philly, who I'm picking at the start of the season to win the division. Obviously, their secondary with Diggs coming off, I believe, a torn ACL. Their secondary is always good. I mean, the Dallas secondary is always one of those teams that like they're kind of like I go for a pick six or I give up an 80-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
That's just the way their secondary rolls. But they have a strong defense. They have a decent play caller that some people like, some people don't, and Mike McCarthy. And I think until they figure out the CD Lamb situation, although Micah Parsons says he will be playing week 1, I'm not going to pick them to win the division. I'll definitely pick them to win the playoffs. But there's so many, just like the Niners do, there's so much going around the Cowboys right now.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say where their season's going to go.
Right.
So I'm definitely still putting the double-digit win mark. I mean, undoubtedly,
okay.
they're so good that like you have a high expectation on them. And if anybody says otherwise, they're just hating. So for now, I'm going to pick them second. I am going to pick them second in the division, and I'm going to put them at like the 11 win mark. I think that's a pretty safe number.
All right. So let me see here real quick. I just kind of want to go through their schedule for a second. So let's see. They open up against the Browns. And then we see them take on the Saints, Ravens, obviously their division, Niners, Steelers, Lions, Falcons, Texans, Bengals, Bucks. They got a tough schedule, Z.
Yeah.
They got a real tough schedule. I think that's one of the, looking at this as at face value, they have the whole AFC North. They have obviously their division, so I'm not really going to count that. And then they got San Francisco, Houston, and they have the Detroit Lions and the Atlanta Falcons. That's rough. That is rough. I'm not a huge schedule guy in the sense of where I put all my marbles into a schedule basket and say, man, this team's schedule is so hard. I don't see how they're going to do any better, blah, 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 blah. Every team's different. Every year in the offseason, people look at teams at face value on paper. That's really all you can judge them at that time. But I'm not a big schedule guy, but I am going to say their schedule's rough. It seems like one of the more rougher ones in the league. When it comes to Dallas, the run game is very skeptical right now, not having Tony Pollard there. And then obviously they were better at running the football a couple years ago between Pollard and obviously when Zeke was still a little bit more in his prime. But you have a situation with Dallas where you still have a stable O-line. Dak's a guy that at worst is going to get you 8 wins. At best, he's probably going to get you 12. They were the best passing offense in the league last year. They were one of the top scoring offenses in the league last year. I am skeptical a little bit about their run game just because I don't really trust Zeke Elliott at this point. If he's going to be more of a lead guy, Rico Dowdle, he's somebody that hasn't really gotten the opportunity. So obviously we have to wait and see on him, depending how they're going to split their carries. But this still should be an offense that scores points. It still should be one of the more higher ranked offenses in the league. I do agree with Z. I think that they have one of the better defenses in the league. But their depth position on offense is a little concerning to me outside of Lamb and a little bit of Brandon Cooks and Ferguson there at tight end. This is a huge year for Mike McCarthy. If Dallas does not achieve anything, if they lose in the first round of the playoffs and miss the playoffs, what would you say that Mike McCarthy's gone?
Well,
I think this is a make or break year for him.
Yeah,
especially how Jerry Jones is. Jerry Jones isn't one of these organizations that has all the patience in the world.
Well, he should be managing the team anyways.
Well, see, I mean, he's probably getting help going to the bathroom.
Well, yeah. To answer your question, I think you gotta say yeah.
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 What am I looking at the play for?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I thought.
Who's that? Cooper Rush? Who's 19?
I think it's Trey Lance.
Trey Lance. Is Trey Lance 19?
Yeah, he's number 19.
Championship at you.
There's Stetson. Here comes a pick. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Well, that was the last night in college football.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
Except it just went the other way.
That was horrendous. Any pick you throw in that game, it's just
an pick sixes. 5 or 6 pick sixes for Z last night. So
Mythical Jazz right down below.
Yeah. You guys will be seeing some gameplay of that hopefully this week.
Yep.
But in terms of the Cowboys, the talent's still there. The defense, we obviously go into this just assuming that they're going to be able to be on the field for the most part, these teams, which we know it probably isn't really going to be the case. But they're stout. They're going to be, I think, one of the teams that in the NFC we're going to look at as I don't think any more or any less than kind of really how they reviewed last year. I might not be quite as high on them as they were last year. But with that being said, I agree with Z. I think this is a second. I think that their spot is second place, and I think Z likes them a little bit more than I do. I was kind of first at thinking 9. I'm gonna give them a little bit to 10, I think their defense is going to help them out a little bit more this year than they did last year. I think the offense takes a little bit of a step back, but it's going to be enough to be able to still probably be a top 7 scoring unit. So, with that said, Z, I'm going to agree with you. Second, 10 wins instead of 11. So I think we're pretty much on the same mark there.
Right. Well, then that brings us to, I think, what both of us are going to agree upon, who's going to be first.
Yeah.
Just
We're both
really,
on the Eagles side, yes.
yeah, in this division. I mean, I think it should have been that way last year.
Yeah.
It should have been that way last year. They obviously should have won the division. On paper, you could say they're the best team in the NFL. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. We're not going to sit here and break down their whole entire roster, but now, adding Saquon onto the team, and you have AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert, and Jalen Hurts, and all these, and probably a top 3 offensive line in the NFL. You would expect this offense to be just god tier, and then on the defensive side, obviously they've had.
I was told that Kenny Pickett's going to beat out Jalen Hurts. That's what I was told.
Who told you that?
It's literally his fan club on X.
Yeah, God's horrendous. So, yeah, I mean, starting off with the Eagles, I mean, obviously, I feel like their biggest headline was just losing, like, other than signing Saquon, was losing Jason Kelce in the offseason.
Yeah.
And sure, I mean, it's only the center position, but that's a lot. And you can say, oh, well, he was in his late 30s, but he was still probably the best in the NFL. I think Fletcher Cox is still on the team, or did he retire too?
No, he retired.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He retired. Yeah. So obviously, you've lost a lot of, really the heart and soul of your team. You still got Brandon Graham there as pictured in the left, but this might be his last year. It's like his 15th season.
Yeah.
So
pretty much like their really key additions this offseason, bringing in Devin White, who has kind of been up and down through his career. Bryce Huff from the Jets to plug in there on the defensive end side. And then they brought back CJ Gardner-Johnson. So,
yeah.
Then they drafted Cooper DeJean, and they drafted that Kele Ringo guy, that corner from Georgia. But I'm not really quite sure how he's going to play.
Sure. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, where do you really start with on this team? I mean, I think like you start with like hoping like Saquon will be healthy. If or not even really just Saquon, I would just say their whole entire offense in general. Like if hoping Saquon and their whole offense is healthy, because if that's the case, then that's what I'm saying. Like you might see, as they had probably, maybe like a season or two ago, like the best offense in the league.
Yeah.
That took them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I don't know. What are your initial thoughts on them as I'm trying to pull up their schedule? I think I got it right here.
Yeah. All right. Well, for some reason, I thought Ringo was this year's draft, but he was last year's draft. But anyway, with the Eagles, I think my main thing is Jalen Hurts. I'm not really big on the Jalen Hurts train that some other people might be. I'll be honest with you. He did not impress me at all last year. He was not an impressive quarterback to me. I think probably a lot of Eagle fans can agree on that end, especially with kind of how their season teetered. Jalen Hurts has a lot at his disposal, man. He has Goddard. He's got a stable line. He's got Smith. He's got Brown, Saquon. I mean, just those 4 guys alone, it's hard to really kind of top that.
Yeah.
And
you can't. I don't think you can anywhere on paper.
The Eagles' defense was pretty underwhelming last year. I expected them to be better. They tried to retool a little bit in their secondary. They have a whole bunch of Georgia Bulldogs waiting for kind of really ultimately their player development, like your Nolan Smith and Jordan Davis. And who's the other defense tackle that they got that I'm blanking out on?
Jalen Carter.
So kind of really waiting on those guys to really continue in their development. I don't really view their defensive unit as something that's going to be a lot better as it was last year. Yeah. That's what Z does at the dentist because he has wooden teeth.
Yeah.
But their defensive unit, it might take a little bit of a step forward possibly, but they're going to be carried by their offense. The offense is going to be the main part of this team, and them probably being able to score 26 plus points a game, probably 27, 28 is probably what they're looking at. And I believe Kellen Moore's their offensive coordinator now. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
I
sure
think
he
so.
is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is. So, with that said, Eagles, there's just a little, there's more on the table for me with them than Dallas. Dallas didn't do a dime of anything this offseason. That's why I think they kind of really took a little bit of a step back because
Yeah.
they stood pat in free agency. They didn't move any money around. Their draft didn't really impress me too much. Um, I think they're just kind of really the same team they were last year, maybe just a little bit more of a step back. With the Eagles, I liked a little bit of their free agency moves. Obviously, they had a pretty solid draft. A lot of people liked what they did. So, with that being said, I think first place makes the most sense
Well, looking
for
at
this
their
division.
schedule, it's like, you see, well, obviously they're starting the first week in Brazil, which will be just amazing.
It's a Friday.
Yeah, yeah. Friday night in Brazil.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
Oh, maybe
God,
Ginobili will be there.
yeah, I know. I mean, that just could be something to watch and to see the audience that they'll get going there.
Quinion Mitchell
Um,
was the corner they drafted this year. That's who I was trying to remember.
yep, out of Alabama. Rest of their schedule. I mean, again, start of the season pretty favorable. First home game against Atlanta, and they play the Saints, and then the Bucks. They have a super early bye week 5, which I think is an L.
Hate that.
So I'm not going to sit here and go over their whole schedule, but yeah, I mean that's why I think we put Dallas a step back and then Philadelphia a step forward.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not going to sit here and say Philadelphia is going to make it the Super Bowl, but I could put them. I would say I would say right now, the only teams I have over them would be probably the Niners and the Lions. I would say that those are the only 2 teams that I would.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
fair. Like you could definitely make a case that the Eagles have the most talent in the NFC. Doesn't mean it's going to amount to being the better team,
no, absolutely
but
not.
they're definitely a top 3 unit in the NFC going in the season.
So we're both picking them to be first.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, I would give them I'll give them an 11.5 win line. So give me the over.
All right.
Give me the
Yeah,
over.
I agree. I'm gonna go. I think 12 wins is a sweet spot there.
I think I'm gonna transition this next one into I think what's maybe the most underrated team um, coming into this season, and
Oh,
that
the
would
Giants.
be yeah, the Giants. That would be the Washington Commanders.
Yep.
Um, I mean, I think what you're gonna try to do. I mean, because they did so much this offseason, if you could try to pull up their acquisitions and everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. They were all over the place.
yeah, because they signed like a bunch of veterans, like Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz and many more. And then obviously they,
Sign Martavis Bryant.
God,
Austin
God,
Eckler as well.
yeah, Austin Eckler, forgot about him. Um, biggest headline was drafting Jay Daniels, who, as of today, breaking news was, and I don't think it's even breaking news, but he was announced
Yep.
as the starting quarterback.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. So really, they added Eckler, Bobby Wagner on a 1-year deal, Mariota as a backup, Ertz, um, Dante Fowler, defensive line. They added a veteran center, that Tyler Biadasz guy, 3-year deal.
yeah,
Where the hell did he come from?
I don't know if I recognize the name.
Honestly, don't even remember where the guy came from. So Jeremy Chin, Clelin Farrell, God, that guy's still around. Brandon McManus, there's your new kicker. So Jamison Crowder's back. God, I feel like this guy's just dude. I feel like James Crowder, dude, has been in the league for 20 years,
Yeah, I mean,
and I feel like
why do
he's
people
played
keep
for
signing him?
Washington at least 3 different times.
Why do people keep signing him?
I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure.
God.
There's a lot of other names on here, but a lot of it's just more depth related. Um,
Yeah,
so
but
yeah, so Z, you can go ahead.
I think they got to be the most underrated team. I think the biggest thing that's going to be holding them back that people are going to have questions on is freaking Cliff Bar calling the plays.
Cliff Bar. Yeah,
Uh,
right. So now they also have a new head coach and Dan Quinn, and then they have Cliff Bar
yeah. So
as play caller.
and there's Jay Daniels. I believe that's him in the photo. I think it's
Well, do you want to tell the people your thoughts about Jane Daniels going in and out of the draft?
I can't remember what my thoughts were.
Yeah, your mind bust, not going to be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Just still stuck on the ASU days for whatever reason.
Well, I was very much upset. I was very much upset that we recruited him to ASU, and it was a horrendous experience. And then he transfers to LSU, and then he wins the Heisman.
Yeah.
So, well, whatever that's all about.
Well, see, I agree. Washington's a sleeper team. They
100% they are.
they have some excitement brewing with. I think the Eckler signing I like more than maybe some other people. I'm really not a big Brian Robinson believer or anything like that. He doesn't move the needle much for me. Jaden Daniels is exciting. The fact with him as a runner with his legs, and he also has a nice arm. But it's really kind of a new culture that this team is trying to set. With you have a new head coach, you have new ownership, you draft a new quarterback, so they're trying to really kind of reset their
a new team name.
Yeah, new team name. So that they're trying to kind of really reset themselves, and I respect that. I think they're heading the right direction. I'm not on the board of. I don't think they're quite there in terms of making a playoff push, but I think that they can be a fun, exciting team. I kind of view them maybe in a similar territory as the Arizona Cardinals, as we talked about in the NFC West. I think a team that might be able to score some points, be in some ball games, that you can look back after the season and say, okay, this team won about 7 games or so, but we look at these other games, they could have won 10, right? So I think that's going to be a similar situation for them, but there's talent there, the right direction. Sure, they added some veteran guys, is what it is. They have some nice guys in the secondary. Not a big Cliff Kingsbury believer. We'll see how he works out.
No.
He likes these type of quarterbacks. Don't really think he did Kyler Murray any good. We'll see how he does with Jaden Daniels. Dan Quinn, his first stout as a head coach, didn't do too well in Atlanta, but a defensive mind. So with that being said, I agree. I think Atlanta is a team that can fly under the radar a little bit of a sleeper just to kind of look out for. But yeah, I have them third, and I think probably around 7 wins.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at their schedule, I think you bring a great comparison with the Cardinals. That's a go. I mean, they're almost likely the exact same position.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we're not going to compare like Kyler being in his 6th year to Jay Daniels being in his 1st year. We're not.
Yeah,
Gonna
no,
break
I'm
down
not
everything,
comparing the quarterbacks. I think just
but
the team as a whole.
yeah, I mean, just looking at their schedule here, it looks like they open up against Tampa. Again, for first few games is really not that bad. I mean, Tampa, Giants, they have the Cardinals, they have the Panthers, they have the Bears. So like,
Yeah, there's some
um,
winnable games there.
yeah, there's some winnable games that like they're literally in the exact same position as Washington is. I'm not gonna sit here right now and say Washington's gonna make the playoffs, but I think they're gonna be. I'll just put them in the hunt for now.
That's fine.
I think I'll put them at like I think an 8-9. Like I would bet a good amount that they go 8-9.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyways, just like you know who I'm just, like if they don't do much this season, I mean Terry McLaurin just gotta get out of there.
Yeah, I agree.
Just gotta get out of there.
Yeah.
But I think I'm interested to see how him and Jade Daniels are gonna have a connection.
How do you feel about Terry McLaurin fantasy value?
Yeah, I won't be drafting him.
He doesn't want any part of Scary Terry.
No, I won't be.
What would you say is scary about him?
Nothing. Maybe his speed.
Is he honestly a talented receiver, but just another one that's just going to come and go?
Yeah. So no, I won't be drafting him. I won't be drafting him in fantasy.
Yeah.
But I think Washington's ultimate sleeper team outside. I predict the Cardinals being the sleeper team in the NFC. I think Washington will be a close second. So, yeah, which would now move us on to.
Going to move on to the Giants, the 4th place Giants, baby.
Yeah, which I'm not.
Brian Dable lost a lot of weight this offseason. Looks pretty good.
No, congratulations.
Maybe he's on the Z diet. I don't know.
Yeah, Z diet.
Eggs, bagels, toast. Putting too much in your body than it wants.
Yeah. I mean,
opening your mouth and just having a plate of eggs fly right in.
Yeah. I mean, just so you guys know, I've never had someone in my life criticize me for having like a healthy.
No. Here's the difference. The guy never used to be like this. The guy never had he has a breakfast obsession. That's the issue. moving on. We're talking with the Giants here. Z, I'm not on the same boat with you with the Giants. You said earlier that you kind of like some of the things they have going. I don't like anything that they got going. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Outside of Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, they drafted Malik Neighbors. Darius Slayton's okay. There's not much there that moves me. Z. You have Daniel Jones. I believe this is gonna be his last year with the Giants. They're gonna be able to get out of his contract next year. Who knows what they decide to do at quarterback? I could see Dak Prescott going there, to be honest with you, and them just giving him the house. Um, but the Giants, to me, are one of the teams in the NFL that just feel like a fog. They don't have any direction. They're in a really just kind of pot of maybe a few solid players and then just a lot of mediocre to bad talent. I think Dable's a good mind. I think he's just kind of in a bad situation that, like Z said, might cost him his job in a year or two. But with the Giants, I honestly think, I'm gonna be honest, I think they're gonna be one of the worst teams in the league. I really do. They traded for Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence. Okay, those are two guys they're going to try to build around on their defense. That's fine. It's not going to be this year. That's going to have to take place next year. They spend a little bit of money and they continue to draft. Offensively, Daniel Jones, Devin Singletary's your lead back. I mean, that's awful. Malik Neighbors, okay, might be a little bit of exciting, but it's not there, and that's a long way to go to really fill out that entire depth chart with the Giants. So the Giants are a ways away. They're not an off season away, in my opinion, or anything like that. I think they're a little bit of a ways away, unless they make maybe a few big splashes this off season. They can tie those ends together, but they just have no direction, not north, not south. They just don't have really any direction right now. So honestly, I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. They're going to finish fourth, and I'm going to give them 4 wins.
Yeah. Well, I compare them to Washington from the last couple of years because like they've built like the strength of their team this season is going to be their front seven, no doubt. You left out Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah, you have him.
Like they have a like it's extremely strong front seven. So I think like that let alone is going to keep them in a couple games throughout the year. But the focal point of this team, man, is just the epitome, the disgusting look of watching videos online of Daniel Jones throw the ball.
Well, Z it is.
Yeah, I mean, did you see the pick six he threw against Houston that preseason game?
I didn't see it, but I heard about it.
No, as we're, I'm gonna try.
How long is Graham gonna open their kicker for?
Anyways, as I'll try to keep talking about it as I'm gonna pull up their pick six. But it was, I mean, it was horrendous. He was in the back of the end zone. One of the edge rushers was like coming down on him, and he threw the pick six like straight to the DB.
That's fantastic.
Let's see, is this it right here? I think I found it. Okay, yeah, I found it. So just so you guys have an idea of the level of talent the New York Giants are working with at the quarterback position, which is kind of like crazy because like 2 seasons ago when they made a decent playoff run, he was actually pretty good. He was actually, and that's what made him get that extension.
Right.
But go ahead and pull this up, and we'll watch this together. This is the end of it, but here goes Daniel dropping the end zone.
This is Z last night,
and he throws it right to him. So
that's terrible.
So we're just gonna let this run a couple times because this is going to be the issue with the Giants this season. They don't really have a running game. Their offensive line the last multiple seasons, they've drafted really high with it, and their tackles like Evan Neal and their other guys out there Andrew Thomas have not been playing. I think things could be different if they do, because obviously a good offensive line changes everything. But this right here is just it's awful. And I can go out there and do that.
You definitely could collect a paycheck, yes.
Yeah. So the receivers, yes, they drafted Malik Neighbors, but you look at the other, I would say outside of Marvin Harrison, we drafting the Cardinals. You look at the other receivers that were drafted, and you make a case that like they went to the right team because that team has other receivers set in place.
Yeah.
Right. So like Roma
Neighbors is not somebody I'll be drafting in fantasy. Z.
No. Anybody,
Marvin Harrison and Roma Dunze are the only two that I would consider.
Right. Especially any receiver, but any player in any sport when they're practicing and people are hyping them up, that's great and all, but you can't not going to say anything on them until week one of the season comes around.
Right.
So, as we're just taking away that god awful highlight.
That was Z last night.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it really was. Yeah, it really was. God, I was
Would
getting
you like to
frustrated.
say every word that you said?
I'm not gonna say anything. No. Yeah, that's why Mythical Jazzy Twitch is a great platform. It lets you say what you want. So,
Yep. Yeah.
uh, wasn't that bad, guys?
All right, Z.
Relax.
So, what's your record prediction for this team here?
Well, if I give rec prediction, I'll give him 5. I'll
5.
give
All
him
right.
5. I think I'm gonna put him in a similar position as Washington, where they have a great front seven. Washington's
Yeah.
had a really good front seven over the years with Jonathan Allen, and even when Chase Young was there, um, and Devon Payne and all those boys. So it's like similar position, but like no quarterback play. Offense is just gonna be dry halfway through the season. Um, yeah, I'll give him 5. I'll
All
give him
right.
5. There's not much
All
to
right.
talk about with them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So we're in agreement completely on our division standings here. Eagles, Cowboys, Washington, Giants. We're pretty clear cut on agreement on the wins. He might have maybe for a team or two one extra win than I do, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same. Um, so really, when we look at this Z, so you have the Eagles winning their division, obviously a playoff team, and then you're going to plug in Dallas as a playoff team.
Yes.
Okay, I think I will agree with you on that. But coming up next, guys, on our next um, part, there will be part 4 of out of 8. So we're going to wrap up the NFC West division. So coming up next, as you guys will see, we will be talking about the NFC North. And I think the NFC North is actually going to have a lot more interesting discussion than probably the NFC East is going to have. I think the NFC North could possibly end up being the best division in this conference this year. So we will be talking about that next. We appreciate you guys tuning in to this episode of us discussing the NFC East, discussing our thoughts on it. You guys can let us know in the comments your thoughts on it. We'll see how this division goes. This division could actually even end up being even better than Z and I are even thinking right now. But going on to the NFC North, guys, we will see you on the other side.